Okay, so now the topic that I want to discuss is subqueries. Now, what is basically a subquery? It's a query inside a query. Now, let's try to imagine the next scenario. I have here my table customer, and I want to find all the customers that have the address ID, that don't have the address ID where, let's say, Mary is living. How would I do this? How would I find all the customers that don't have this address ID 5? Now, naturally, I can put something like this if I know the address ID, where address ID, and you can have this operator is not equal with 5. And I will have my answer. But let's say I don't know the address ID for my specific customer, Mary. So how would I do this? Well, I will need to find, let's say, Mary, select where, let me put here the query address ID, where first name is equal with Mary. So here I found the address ID. Now after that, I will need to get all the customers where address ID not in the result of this query. So basically I need to put a query inside a query. So how would I do this? Now I want you to know that a subquery can be used in the select keyword, in the from clause, and also in the where clause. Now the most common one is the one we are using right now. It's in where clause. So basically I want to put this query here in here. So I will do something like this: Unity open parentheses and put here your query. And I will put here my query without the semicolons. And what basically Postgres will do, it first will run this query, it will get me the result, which is 5, and then it will run this query and it will get me the result where address ID is not in 5. And you can see here I have the same result. Now let's imagine something else, where first name, let's put like, so I can have multiple values, because I want you to see an error. And here it says an error, more than one row returned by subquery used as an expression. So what has happened here? Let me copy this and put it here, put the semicolon and write. As you can see here, I have multiple values, and basically this query is an invalid one because you are trying to find where address ID not, and I only need to have one value. If I want to have multiple values, I can put easily not in. We learned about in and not in. So basically I want to find all the customers that don't have the address where the first name begins with MA, and this will give me the results. So this is a subquery. So what I want, some rules. A subquery can be used in a select clause, from clause, and where clause. Now what we learned so far is only the where clause, and you need to put between parentheses and no semicolon, like this. And you need to check, you need to make sure that this subquery will return the values that you are looking for. For example, if I put here star, I will get an error. Why is that? Because this subquery will not return a single column with multiple values, it will return the entire row, and I will have here an error which says subquery has too many columns. You cannot have not in multiple columns. So I need to put the one that I am interested in, which is address ID. So this is all about subqueries with the where clause.